Awesome. Well, thank you, Jim. Let's give Jim a round of applause for that lesson. Thank you to Jim. Thank you to Donna. Thank you to Marina and everybody else behind the scenes. Alex doing the AV.
Yeah.
I am very, very honored to be here. I'm honored just to be a disciple, honestly, truly. A little bit about me before we get into it. We're going to have an exercise in a few minutes just to kind of break it up, and I'll explain what the exercise is first. My name is Ryan Keenan, and for those that know or don't know, I got baptized, July 2005 in Portland. A couple years into the McKeans leading the Portland church, of course, before they came to LA. And, I got reached out to. I was working at Nike at the time, and a couple of coworkers reached out to me to the singles retreat that the Portland Singles Ministry was putting on. And to be very candid, I went out just to try to find a girlfriend. I wasn't necessarily interested in becoming a disciple. I didn't really know what it meant to be even a disciple. I grew up Catholic, and so, but God was, I had just moved to Portland, so I didn't really know a lot of people, right? And so it's just interesting how God works through relationships. And I come out and I, of course, meet all the incredible singles ministry, the singles ministry leaders. People study the Bible with me. I got baptized that summer. And then about a month later, I moved to Eugene, Oregon, where I got my master's in business degree. And what was so cool is that a year prior, for me studying the Bible, they had sent out the Eugene church with Jeremy and Amy Charamella. And so it was one of the very first church plantings in the new movement. And so I'm forever grateful because there's a church, of course, in Eugene. Eugene and Portland about 2 hours away. And so without the church there, I probably would have fallen away. Being in grad school, being a baby disciple, it was the only church that I even applied to. And so I got my MBA. I'm part of the campus ministry. I ended up leading the campus ministry with at the time, my girlfriend, Ayana. And God was working through it, of course, in a great, great way. So we led the campus ministry. We're both interns, living the dream. We fall in love. We get married in Portland. And then the year that we got married, Kip asked us to move to LA to be the administrator for the LA church. It got delayed about a year because she had to finish her master's in teaching degree. And so we eventually moved to Ventura County, 2010, where I was the LA administrator. And then I was that for about several years until about 2015. Nick Economo became the LA administrator from Chicago. I became the Pacific Rim or the Tribe World Sector Administrator with Tim Kernan. And then for about a year and a half, 2 years, and then now I'm assisting Michael with the global administration of the movement. And so, from Eugene to LA to helping really, and it's very profound, the story about Joseph, because it's not just about a story about grain and 7 years and then another 7 years. And God had a plan working through the famine to impact all nations. Yeah. And so that's what it's about. This is not just for the next week or to get through life skills for the next few weeks at El Segundo. You guys with me? This is so that we can impact the nations. Yeah. And so I really want to encourage you. These are very, very spiritual principles we're talking about. It's not just numbers and a spreadsheet and a handout and a Saturday morning in El Segundo. You guys with me? Yeah. This is to impact the nations. And God has chosen you for such a time as this. And I really believe that we're here in America for such a time as this. God has given us America even for the wealth that's in America to then, through special missions and, of course, baptisms, to then have the ability to win the world in our generation. America is uniquely poised to help the movement in a great, great way. So these are foundational building blocks and things that we're going to talk about. We're building a foundation, right? This is not just the next few weeks or few months to check something off your list, but you're building a great lifestyle for you, but also to impact people, helping them so that we can win more and more souls. Amen? Right. So that's just a little bit about me. I've been honored to work with the GLC budget the last several years. We've been able to, by God's power, make and glory, just make a break even, make a little bit of profit every single year, except for Manila, which was expensive because it's international. A couple years ago, I was in Metro Manila, Makati City. But even last year, it's a lot of work. It's a science and an art working on something like the GLC budget. If you want to work on that next year, let me know, and maybe we can add you to the team. But it took me just kind of figuring it out. You have a template, you build it up again for the next year. And I told Kip, bro, I think we need about 2,000 paid attendees. Amen, bro. So he goes out and then he puts that pressure back on the world sector leaders and the church leaders. And eventually we had about 2,040 attendees. Wow. And we were able to break even a little bit. And we're talking a pretty big budget here. But it takes a lot of planning, a lot of work. And it's not just, again, the financial part of it. It's a spiritual effort. We want to have as many people come to the GLC as possible. But be able to make it break even, it takes that work, the communication, the planning. And God totally blessed it. We more than had 2,000 attendees. We broke even. So it's just been cool to have different experiences working on things like the GLC. And there's many, many other stories I could share. It was cool, even like in Manila, the day after I flew back, Manny Pacquiao, the boxer, he was like a national hero. He was in the lobby of the hotel we were at the GLC. And so Tim was able to share his faith with Manny Pacquiao and his entire entourage. And it was just really cool how God works through these events to impact people in a great, great way. So there's lots of cool stories. Before I get into it, really the practicals of a budget and building out what you see right here on the slide, we're going to break up into different teams. And so I already kind of gave the mentors a heads up. We're going to play Mythbusters, okay? So each group, headed up by the mentor, is going to bust a different myth about budgeting. You guys with me? And so on the paper, we have different, you could pick at least one scripture to refute the myth. For example, I'll deal with it when I'm older. Or making a budget is difficult and I hate math. Anybody relate to that? Yeah. I don't have time to budget. There's no point. I'm already in so much debt. It's too restrictive. It's overwhelming to me. Nobody ever thought of any of these things, right? No. Okay. I can't go out to eat anymore. I hate cooking. I can do budget in my head. I make tons of money. Right, guys? Everyone here can relate to that. I don't need a budget. So, you're right. Okay, so we'll take about 5-10 minutes. Okay, so this does not have to be a Jordan Peele horror movie, right? Budgeting doesn't have to be some scary, mythological, crazy, intense, I don't want to face it, Goliath. And sometimes it can be that, where it's this big, scary thing in our hearts or our minds. It doesn't have to be that. We only have, really, the next hour to do only so much. We're going to get through a lot. So we're going to be able to do a lot of great things for the next little bit. And I'm going to try to just make it as simple as possible for you guys. I will read 2 scriptures before we get into the slide here. And Isaiah 32:8, just write it down. A noble man makes noble, and I know it's referenced with the groups here, some of them. A noble man or woman makes noble plans, like a budget. And by noble deeds, they stand. Luke 16:10-12, Jesus says, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. Whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you've not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? And if you've not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you a property of your own? And if we can't manage the time, our appearance, our bodies, the money, the resources that God's given us, see, the end game, guys, is the Great Commission, right? The end game is we're here to win the world. You guys with me? Yeah. We're here to win souls. And so I have to always think about how is what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, when I'm doing it, where I'm doing it. How does that feed into the Great Commission, right? Yep. Handling true souls, true riches. Because we can't take any money to heaven, but we can take souls to heaven. Mm-hmm. And so we want to live in such a way so as to win the world. Even Joseph had in a sense, a 14-year plan. 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine. That of course, Jim did a great job preaching about. And this is just a 12-month plan. But it sets you up, again, we're talking about a foundation here for the rest of your life. Amen? So, at the end of the day, I just want to encourage you that we're disciples. And what we do is we're building a spiritual plan to equip you to really win souls. So that way you can go into bigger and better things. And I want to encourage you, this is not the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai set in stone, these numbers, that you're going to fill out this upcoming week as homework. It's always a refining, living, breathing document. Does that make sense? Yeah. And our lives change and grow. I mentioned my wife. I have 2 young daughters now. And so that could easily impact a budget. The Fentons have 4 kids, right? And so I'm sure their budgets, the ebb and the flows and the changes over the years with having 4 kids. And so, God wants to be able to give you true riches. the souls of men and women. That's what the heart of this is all about. A budget, here's an interesting definition, an estimate of costs, revenues, and resources over a specified period of time. It's a plan of action. It's a standard for measuring performance. And it's a device for managing planned and unplanned situations. And it gives you the tools to handle those situations. Budgets can be personal, which we're talking about, of course, today. They can be corporate. You've heard of the U.S. government balancing their budget. And they don't really do a great job because they're, of course, in a huge deficit in the trillions.
Yep.
What happened to that? You know, who's overseeing that? I don't know. So, I'll leave that alone, man. So, yeah. I'll be careful of that. So, but it could be event related, like the GLC, a Women's Day, a men's forum, even a Sunday service. Even this, the cost associated with just food and coffee and whatnot for a single event. So it can show up in a number of ways. For the homework for this upcoming week, homework item number 1 is filling out what you see right here. And so I don't have a handout. I have a 1-month budget that we're going to do in a little bit. Jim does have the Excel file, that this exact template that I want you to fill out. I realize not everyone has Excel. I recommend that you either do an Excel or you do a Google Doc and you share the Google Doc with your mentor, with your discipler, with me and Jim, even if you want to. We can give feedback this upcoming week. At the end of the day, I do want you to come with a printout of whether you do it by hand, which I don't recommend because this takes time. And I have built-in formulas that I'll go through in a little bit, where it already automatically adds up all the expenses and the income, and it does all the heavy lifting. You just have to put in the numbers, right? But I recommend you come with a printout of your entire 12-month view next Saturday. Ideally, your mentor's already reviewed it by next Saturday morning. So they're not seeing it for the very first time next Saturday morning, but you're working with your mentor throughout the week. And then with that, I encourage you to sign up for mint.com. So just how it sounds, M-I-N-T, mint, like mint gum. It's a website that's free. And what you do is you put in your bank account information, whether it be Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase, etc. Your login. It's very, very safe. Millions of people use it. Some people they're a little bit leery about using their bank information with a third party. But mint.com, what it does is it tracks your spending for you. And it'll help you fill this out. It's going to help you. Cool. And so it grabs your bank information. So, of course, your debit, your credit card spending. And then it puts it on a database on the website. And you can just link it to your phone. And you can set alerts and notifications if you're overspending, eating out at Starbucks or whatever. And you can just go through the website. I don't want to go into it too much. But it'll help you fill out your income and your expenses for Jan, Feb, March. Obviously, you don't know your April through December. You guys see what I'm saying? Because you just don't know. You have a plan. You think you know. But you can actually fill in. So what I want you to do is when you fill this out, fill out the actuals for Jan, Feb, and March. Next Saturday will be almost the end of the year. It'll be Saturday the 30th. You guys tracking what I'm saying? And so you'll basically know 3 months worth of actual numbers. Other things that are out there like Quicken, QuickBooks, that's a little bit more involved and high level. You don't have to do that. We have it. I'm not saying that you have to. Again, it's a great start because it's free and it's very, very user friendly. Banks have their own tools. Again, you could do it by hand, by paper, Excel, Google Doc. But so Jim, you'll send out this document to everybody out today. Let me know if you have any questions. But I'm trying to make it as easy as possible. And what's cool, guys, is that this basic model, we then kind of baptize it into the kingdom in a sense, and we link it up with church plantings. So what does that mean? Well, so we have something that looks like this for Atlanta, for Indianapolis, for Columbus and Milwaukee that got sent out last year, for Albuquerque, right? So every single major planting, they have minimum, really like a 2-3 year view. And so just so cool, like even yesterday I was on the phone with Ron Harding about the Atlanta budget. I'm going to talk with Colton Roan on Sunday afternoon about the Columbus budget and just doing a budget review. So, and what's awesome is that I messaged him, hey, let's just do a quick review of your budget. And Ron's like, I got time right now. And Colton's like, let me do Sunday with you for my leaders meeting, right? So my point is, these are incredibly amazing disciples, really. They're church leaders, obviously, but they understand the power and how God can work through staying on top of your budget at a church level, right? Yeah. So these are guys that have, of course, their personal budget that me and Michael have reviewed and given feedback on, but we need to have this at a church level. We don't want to fly blind, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so just to take encouragement as disciples in the movement, for any Operation Eagle Planting or obviously Crown of Thorns, but even at a macro, 30,000 foot view, if you will, we absolutely have a missions budget, an LA budget for the next 3-4 years. So we can plan for multiples in missions, or if we have extra money, hiring more interns. Or you guys see what I'm saying? So again, it's mastering the foundation and the principle, so then you can kind of go bigger with the movement or with the church or individually, right? You can scale it at any level is the point. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to run through this just visually. I realize it's a lot, and you may not be able to see the writing, and that's okay. I'll just start at the top, and I'm just going to scroll down. You can kind of see that it is all on one page, and you see right there, so you kind of get a feel for how it looks visually. So I'm not going to claim that I am the expert in budgeting or whatever. There's lots of great ideas. This does work. People can implement and change and adapt or revise as needed, but over the years, this has proven to be very, very effective. And so again, just master the basics, master the fundamentals, and then you can kind of tinker with how you want to do it on your own. So I'll just start from the very, very top. And let me back up. The reason why it's a 12-month view, who can give a thought of why we do 12 months versus just 1 month? What do you guys think? Malik, yeah.
You got different things coming up in different months.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Any other thoughts of why? That's a primary reason. Yeah, Walter.
I think just a drum benefit, you can see how much you spend in a year on certain items like rents or even contribution or special missions, so maybe plan for the following year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Any other ideas? No, that's it. Primarily, I always just try to preach and teach. It helps you visually see. Not every month is created equal, right? Mm-hmm. So what's happening in March, April, May? If you're a disciple in the U.S., you have special missions. That's a pretty big expense, right? Yeah. If you want to go to a missions conference, let's say in Mexico City in July, you can plan for that. Christmas time. What happens during the holidays? What happens during Thanksgiving, Christmas time? So obviously missions in November, but then you have gifts, travel perhaps. So your expenses. So what my point is, it's not a static. Every month is the same, but you have this ebb and flow. It's called like a sine wave. So ideally you want to be saving money where it looks like this, but sometimes it is kind of the ins and outs of making money, losing money, where you get in track. Not every month is created equal. Months are different. You may have more expenses, you may have more income. So that's the thinking of just that visual view of the 12 months. Okay, so the top, what we have right here is net income. And some people get paid bi-weekly, bi-monthly. I have income number 3, other income. You may get birthday money, gifts, tax refund in the springtime. Total income in this green row right there. Mm-hmm. And again, these are already some formulas. You just have to enter in the data in the white sections, and it'll automatically add it up for you. Mm-hmm. These are very, very simple formulas. Just equal sum, and then you grab the row of cells. And you don't have to be an Excel expert to be able to use it. So just want to encourage you guys. Some people have just different levels of use with Excel than others. So it's very, very important. 52 weeks in a year, obviously, but if you just did 4 weeks a month times 12, that'd be 48. You're missing 4 weeks. I know it sounds really, really obvious, but you have to account for that extra Sunday, which is an extra week of what? Contribution, or if you have another weekly expense or whatever. So those 4 extra weeks does make a difference throughout the year. So I have that right here, number of Sundays. Weekly vow to the Lord. So I think it's important. I visually have it first at the top because we give to God first. Yeah. Right? So again, you want to think about this and how do I baptize this in Christ? This is not just an Excel spreadsheet, but let's think spiritually about what we're doing. You guys with me? Yeah. So I literally have it very first before rent or utilities, and it's not. I don't look at it as a bill or as like some credit card payment. I mean, this is our vow to the Lord, so it's first. So weekly vow, whatever your pledge is, fill it in right here. And then, again, it automatically does the formula where your monthly vow to the Lord, and again, 4 or 5 weeks, it makes a difference. it'll automatically put right here what you're giving to God on a monthly basis. Then we get into special missions, rent, mortgage, and I have different expenses kind of blocked, if you will, or color coded. So I'll just kind of scroll down. So you can see right here, utilities, water, sewer, garbage, cell bill, internet, streaming, which is a little bit like a utility because it's just it's similar to internet and cell bill. Then I have in the blue this is just ours, for example. Eating out, Target, Sprouts, Trader Joe's, Costco. We have student loans. In the yellow is like anything auto related, so gas, auto loan payment, car insurance, oil change. We'll go over that I think next week, just kind of a case study of what it costs to really own a car, whether it be used or new. And then in the green, these are like annual payments. So again, not every month is the same. So we have an annual AAA membership. Even though it's about $60, it still makes a difference. Costco, gym membership, and then again that's monthly. But memberships, annual payments. In the middle is kind of just miscellaneous, personal, other, hair care. What else? Healthcare, credit card payments, savings, travel at the very bottom. In the kind of the light pink here, monthly expenses. So it grabs all the expenses. Income minus expenses equals net income. And at the very, very bottom is what we call the money line. What's interesting is that some people, they mistakenly think, I made a lot of money in March because I got my tax refund. Well, maybe that was just money in, money out, where it went right to special missions. So my point is it can be misleading where you feel like you have a lot of money because you got a lot of money. That's true, but maybe you had like a lot of annual memberships that hit in March, for example. And so it can be misleading. And so net income is really, really important, don't get me wrong. But what's an extra kind of a layer to this is the very, very bottom, month-end balance, running cash flow. So for example, and again, this is already built into the formula when you get it from Jim, the spreadsheet. I just put in $500. Hopefully everyone's fired up at $500 starting in the beginning of the year. And I just had to pick some kind of a number. And so it's a static 500 across the board just because we don't have the rest of the numbers filled in. But what this is this tracks how much money you're at any given point throughout the year. In other words, am I out of money come August? Do I have a lot of money in December that I could use to go travel? So, for example, like let's just pick Atlanta. They're in a downspend, right? So they get seed money from the movement, right? We raise special missions, and Ron's got a chunk of change, so he's got a pretty healthy bank balance. Jan, Feb, March. Now they're about 27 members, and of course they have weekly contribution, but they have to get off. It's almost like taking a plane taking off, right? So they have to get off the ground financially speaking. And so I literally had the same conversation with him like just yesterday afternoon about this line right here. And so he was off in a good way where he actually had more money in the bank than he had budgeted, which is good, which is a good thing. So he's been a great steward, awesome. And I went off what they had reported for their bank end balance, and it was actually higher, again, a great thing. So then he could update his number, and so they're going to raise local missions. They're going to hire a ministry couple in July, full time. And so we were just talking about how much money do they need special missions locally to pay for the ministry couple in July. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's a little bit of a macro view. But this running cash flow, I can't overstate enough how important it is. Am I out of money? Is it just $50, which is kind of a little bit of a blip? Is it $500? Is it 1 month? Is it 6 months? Do I need to get a second job? You guys see what I'm saying? Or am I making money? Am I saving more than I had anticipated? Can I invest that money, right? And so if you have any questions, we can talk more about this. But this basically shows you how much money you have in the bank at any given moment throughout the year. And Jan, Feb, March, please fill in your ending month balance for Jan 31, February 28th, March 30th. You'll know by, March 29th, I suppose. You'll basically know it. To put in actual numbers, Jan, Feb, and March. And so this helps you guys. Knowing is half the battle. You guys with me? Yep. And this really helps you have a great kind of a go-forward plan to not make it some big, scary Goliath, and make it very manageable. And it's just one page. It's just one, which is huge. which is one. But even in the corporate world, I talked to a guy who, you guys ever heard of Jack Welch, the former CEO of General Electric? He's like in the Hall of Fame of CEOs, but this is a high-level dude that was a marketing professor where I went to college. And even with Jack Welch or a Phil Knight, they would have one-page memos. So boiling down these high-level things into one page that you hand the CEO for a budget proposal. So there's a lot of great power in the simplicity and the elegance of one page, right? So even Steve Jobs with the Apple products, it takes a tremendous amount of work to make it very simple. A simple design. It's a lot of effort, but it's worth its weight in gold. So we're trying to just boil these concepts into a simple thing, a one-year view. There's great power in that. You guys with me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so, all right, let's keep going here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick second exercise. And so there's only two. This is the second of two. Have somebody hand these out for me. So what this is just a 1-month budget exercise. And this might look familiar for people that did it last time. So we'll just spend, I realize we don't have a lot of time, but 5-10 minutes, as best as you can, your March income and expenses. Or if you don't know, because I know we're still in the month of March, just your typical monthly income, monthly expenses on this worksheet. As best as you can, next 5-10 minutes. We'll have a little bit of feedback, pros, cons, what you guys learned, and then we'll bring it back in about, a few minutes here. So. Sweet. Yeah, so it's quite revealing, right, guys? I think it kind of came to mind. It's like in James, where looking at yourself in a mirror. So it is like a financial mirror of sorts, and it reflects where you're at financially. I've heard some people call it like a second sin list. I won't say who said that. It's like a second sin list, right? What do we need to repent of? So, all right. So it's interesting. These are very simple concepts that we're trying to just master the fundamentals, if you will, right? So in other words, with a budget, it really is not a hocus pocus situation, and people can kind of get lured into the get quick rich schemes. It really is as simple as increasing your income or decreasing your expenses, or both. In terms of trying to save money, which we're going to hit more next week. We don't have the time. We're going to finish out with this, and then the credit report, and then that'll kind of close out today's session. But this gets you thinking, right? Please, finish it up. That being said, the homework is not this. This is just a quick exercise. The homework is the 12-month view. Does that make sense? So some quick solutions to kind of bolster your budget. And if you need, I can send this file out to you, because I'll just kind of rattle off just for the sake of time. But extra side jobs. I know that sounds obvious, right? Ask for a raise. I appreciate Mr. Flurry in the back here, manning the AV. We were talking about his budget, and I go, bro, what if you just ask your boss for a raise? And so, Matthew 7, right? If you don't ask, you're not going to receive, right? And so just awesome where, Alex asked over several months, and not only that, I mean, he's a great employee, right? That helps too, obviously, when you have great integrity. And so, Alex asked, and then recently he got a 24% raise at his job. And so it's pretty awesome. And so it begins these conversations. And so pursue better paying jobs in your field. This is more like a Renee Lougheed kind of a topic, and in a few weeks, and she's incredible at this, how to go about that. But get free or used items, fix them up, resell them, sell artwork, paintings, collectibles. Areas to reduce your expenses. One is a simple thing called the envelope method, right? So if you go out to eat, entertainment, movies, eating out, the money for that month, literally just put it in an envelope, cash. And once it's gone, it's gone. On the 10th, the 15th, the 31st, if it's gone, it's gone, right? And so just that simple discipline when it runs out. Or if you have extra, awesome, then you can roll it over to the next month or put it towards something else, a new outfit or new shoes or whatever, right? So even the brothers like new outfits, amen? So home-cooked meals, amen, Michael? So asking credit card companies to lower the interest rate. So sometimes I just give them a call and I go, hey, can you lower my interest rate? And, they don't drop it substantially, but they've lowered it 2-3 percentage points. Hey, there's this other credit card offer over here, I could go with them, but could you lower it and match their rate, right? So they want your business. So just call and ask. A 15-minute call could really save you 15% or more, not just the shop secondhand stores. So, Goodwill. It's so cool. Caleb Cohen, who leads the South. Caleb Cohen, he's kind of renowned for getting incredible bargains at Goodwill and Salvation Army. Things that are just like, obviously they're used with like really good condition, and he'll just give them as gifts to his friends. And my blue messenger bag in the back table, he got that from me. And it's just awesome. We don't have to necessarily buy top brand name things at the mall. I've worked at the mall, and the markups there they're just crazy. It's just, you are paying for pricey real estate. So, Ross or just, you get the idea. Buy a good used car. Don't ever buy, this is my just strong recommendation, no matter the car, even if it's your favorite car in the world, but don't go and buy the latest 2019 car, because once you drive off the lot, it substantially reduces in value. Yeah. It's one of the worst purchases you can make. Get like a really good 2-3-year-old used car that's pretty new, 2017, 18, or whatever, if you happen to be buying a car. We're going to go through that exercise next week. But we researched our last couple of cars. It was always a good used car. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, because you're literally losing thousands that day when you drive off the lot. Cut out unnecessary spending. And again, it's a good kind of a reflection of where does my money go, right? Research. All these good ideas came off the internet here. Don't go into debt, which is our next section. So I know probably easier said than done, and I realize some people are at different levels. Some people maybe have debt. Some people have maybe no debt. That's awesome. Don't go into debt. And if you do, Romans 13:8, just write it down. It says, let no debt remain outstanding, except the continuing debt to love one another, right? And so it is always about love, and we're always, at the end of the day, we're disciples here. So we'll touch briefly on debt, how to get out of debt, okay? And then we're going to close out with credit reports. My recommendation is, well, let me back up here a little bit. It's not inherently wrong or sinful or bad to have a credit card, okay? Look at it as a tool, okay? When we moved to LA, we for about 6 months, until I got a job with the church, and my wife was looking for like a temp job just to pay the bills, we had to live off our credit cards. There was like no other solution. And that was our last resort. That's not a good way to live. It took us a long time to then pay off all the debts, and then we cut up the cards, threw them away, and closed the accounts, right? So that's not a wise way to live. I don't view that as that we were in sin. That was a 6-month thing we had to do it until we got steady work, and now God's taking care of us. So if you do have credit cards, I would try to streamline it where you have one card, maybe two, maybe. We have 2 credit cards, and one of them we don't even use at all. It's like an emergency, in case of emergency, break glass, maybe a medical emergency or a travel emergency or whatever. Otherwise, we use one primary card, and it's a rewards card where we're getting a lot of rewards points, and we're using it as a tool, okay? You want to let it be your servant and not your master. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you let it serve you. You're not its servant, right? It's a tool that you're going to use and take advantage of. Credit card rates are some of the worst rates in the world for interest rates. Probably second to like advanced payday loans, which are just another topic entirely. Don't ever do that. But I mean, upwards of like 25%, which is just highway robbery. I mean, it's just crazy. So for us, we use our credit card as a tool, but we absolutely always pay it off well within 30 days so that we don't pay a single cent in interest. And so really I pay probably 2-3 times a month. And I try to time it with, obviously, when we get paid bi-monthly, twice a month, and I make that payment right away when I know I'm going to have money on the 15th or the 31st. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so that way we're not throwing money down the drain with exorbitant interest rates. So again, you want to use it. We won't get into it now, but you can look at some great websites about where do I start, what credit card. If you don't have a credit history, I would say start with like a small limit, like $1,000, $500. Very, very small. And put a recurring payment on there, like maybe your cell phone bill. Maybe your cell phone's $60 to $100, whatever. in that range, put that on your credit card, pay it off right away, and build up very, very just basic history, right? Something very, very simple. You can manage it. You don't want to go more than half your limit. In other words, if it's $1,000, you don't want to go above 500 because that can hurt your credit score. Okay, so just because you have 1,000 doesn't mean that you need to, of course, use all that. We don't want to be greedy. We want to be wise stewards. Just because it's there, this is where companies make a lot of money. They want you to use up your whole limit. And so that's where they make a ton of money. They're banking on you being sinful and irresponsible and greedy and living the American dream. And that's why these companies, that's why you get tons of credit card offers all the time, right? Does that make sense? Right. So, but we're going to be different because we're going to be not in sin. We're going to be disciples. We're going to use the wise. Amen, guys? Yeah. So, even for the LA church does not have a credit card. We just have debit cards. We don't do loans. We don't get into the credit card game. Even at a movement level, we don't do that. Is it sinful to do that? I'm not saying it's sinful, but as a matter of principle, we choose not to. Right? It's just literally, even though it's a lot of numbers, it is money in, money out, with a lot of commas and zeros, right? Bigger numbers than what's on your paper, but it's the same principle that we're talking about here. And then I'll close with this, just something to encourage you. As you have that year-long plan, there's something called a debt payoff or a snowball method. So let's say you have like a small department store amount per month of like $70, right? You pay off that card first, or maybe it's like $500 on this department store card. The monthly payment, once you pay that off, you roll that $70 into your student loan. That's maybe $200. Then your payment every month is $270. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so you're snowballing where you're paying off the lower amounts first, and then you're knocking out bigger and bigger and bigger debts. As the snowball payments get bigger and bigger and bigger. Does that make sense? Yeah. So luckily we were able to, with a lot of planning, we were able to hit our missions the last 2 times. The very first week that the numbers were announced, we gave our missions, we got it done. And then we were able to get our tax refund, and we were able to use our tax refund not for missions, but for my wife's student loan. We paid off my wife's student loan of $4,600. Wow. So we're done with my wife's student loan, praise God. And even better, that monthly payment of $207, we're using that to snowball into our car payment, which only has like $4,000 left on it. Mm-hmm. And so now we're going to be able to pay that off in about half the time, because we're basically doubling the payment, right? So it's a snowball where the money that you save with a debt being paid off, snowball to knock out your other debts. So then once we're done with the car, then all that's left is my student loan, and then we're totally debt free. It's pretty cool. So, amen. So there's hope. There's hope on the horizon. It's not, don't feel like you're shackled or restricted or it's confining, but it really is, in a sense, like a way out, financial freedom, using godly principles. Amen? Amen. All right. So we're going to close out with this. We've got about 5-10 minutes here. Then we'll open up for just a few quick questions. Jim will close it out. You guys have been a great audience before I forget. So credit score, credit report. And we're going to touch on this. We'll talk more next week because there's a wealth of information. I'll just kind of highlight the very top level things. There are 2 different things. Credit score, credit report are 2 vastly different things. The analogy is like your GPA, a number, right? 4.0 GPA. And then your transcript, which has a history of your grades for 4 years at college or 2 years at a community or whatever, right? And so credit score is obviously just what it is. It's just a one numerical value that determines your credit worthiness, okay, to agencies. The very highest score you can get is 850. I think the lowest is like around 300, which is not what you want to have at all. And that'd be crazy if anybody had 300. But it's a score that's a big deal in America. And so you want to have a good score because this helps you get a good loan for your car. If you want to buy a used car, right? If you want to, who wants to own a house one day, perhaps? So this will help you have a great interest rate with a home mortgage. And that's an industry that I'm not an expert in, but for example, we do have a great score, praise God. So we were able to get a great loan on our car of 1.9% interest. At the national level is around 3%, and I had already gotten a pre-qualified loan from my credit union of like 2.5%, and then the auto company they were able to beat it. We can give you 1.9% interest. They just wanted our business, in other words. But over the life of our loan, it's only like $500 in interest over like a $14,000 loan, which is really nothing, right? So it's basically free money with the loan. And so this is what it helps you achieve. If you have a great credit score, you're paying less over time in interest. Long story short. Your third homework assignment after the 12-month budget, after mint.com sign up, which will help you with your budget, is go to annualcreditreport.com. And there's a lot of like fake websites that want you to pay money. They're going to try to trick you. This is a U.S. government, if you will, protected agency that's run by the 3 credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, Experian. Those are the 3 industry leaders of credit reporting agencies. They've come together, and it's government legislation that's protected you guys, you the consumer. So annualcreditreport.com, what this allows you to do as a consumer is every 12 months you can get a free, so you don't have to pay anything. That's a website trying to trick you. You can get a free credit report from one, 2, or 3 of these agencies. I recommend you do all 3. What do you think? One for sure, obviously.
Yes.
3?
You have access to get each of those free every year. The way that they're broken out is a little bit on geography, and Experian is used primarily on the West Coast, so I would start with Experian and then do the other 2. Start with Experian, then do the other 2. The other 2 may have information Experian doesn't. Not every bank or lender reports to all 3. Some of them only report to 1 or 2 agencies. So it's best to get all 3. Start with Experian. Most relevant.
That's great advice. And I just did it for us. I just did TransUnion just to pick. I didn't really know the difference between the 3. That's good to know about. What Jim said, like more West Coast based. They're all 3 competing companies trying to get business. So I just did for us, just even last night, TransUnion. And it was interesting. This helps you to see, obviously, what's on there. And there was an address on there from about 10 years ago that I was like, what address? Is this fraud? Is this somebody that... And it was a place that we lived at for like 3 weeks that just happened to be on there. And so it was legit, but I had totally forgotten that we lived there when we first moved to LA. So it was not fraud. It was fine. But this helps you to identify, is your identity theft? Did somebody open up a credit card in your name, for example? And this helps you to see that. And not everyone, when that happens, are they going to notify you. So this helps you take power and control of your life. And so these, in essence, these reports show, of course, your history of all your debts and credit cards and loans and your payment history. It shows you your employment history. It shows you your places of residence the last several years. And so it's super, super helpful. Have I been making payments on time? And what does it look like? What are these agencies seeing when you apply for a loan? You get to be able to see what they see. Does that make sense? So it's free. It takes like 5-10 minutes to sign up. You're able to get a PDF right away. Obviously, save it, print it out, save a hard copy. The way that they have it worked on the websites, once you leave that screen, you can't go back again. So just follow their instructions. It's pretty simple. But you definitely want to make sure you have copies. And set a reminder every 12 months, you're entitled to one free report from up to all 3 agencies. Amen? We'll go over that next week, what you guys find out. And make sure you come with a printout of that. Lastly, your credit score. What goes into not some big, crazy, hard to understand concept. FICO is a company that they're kind of the Coca-Cola of the world, where their credit score is what's primarily used. And so they have an algorithm where your score is made up of 5 components, primarily payment history. And so always make sure you pay your payments on time, minimum balance, always on time. Otherwise, that'll ding you. That's 35% of your score. 30% of your score is amounts owed. So if you have a big balance, even if you're pretty righteous in paying it off, that could affect your score. 15% length of history, 10% new credit. So if you open up a bunch of new accounts, that could also hurt your score. 10% types of credit used. And again, I recommend 1, maybe 2, but just don't worry about 2. That's why I said maybe in case of a situation, but just try to master having 1 and paying it off always before 30 days. Does that make sense? Yeah. I know we hit a lot, but just to kind of cover the highlights here. So just to recap, we'll close it out, then we'll do a few Q&A questions here. Wherever you're at, start now. Build a 12-month calendar. Use Excel, use a Google Doc, print it out, bring it next week. Use mint.com to get your expenses the last few months here, and income, of course. And then sign up annualcreditreport.com, 5-10 minutes. You'll get it downloaded. It'll email you a link here. And those are the homework assignments. So we'll talk more next week. Next week, we're going to go over your budget review, your credit report, and that'll probably be revealing to you guys in a good way. So it's good. Knowledge is half the power, amen? Yeah. And then we're going to talk about a plan to save and then even invest money. So that way we're not living paycheck to paycheck and missions to missions, but you kind of have a plan for your life. So, sound good? Yeah. Awesome. You guys have been awesome. So that's the presentation for the day.